let's get into our next topic. Now, speaking of fornicating a little too much, let's talk about Nick Cannon, who is being dragged for admitting he hopes his daughters don't date men like him. So, in a recent interview that he did, I believe with Extra, he basically he shared an honest reflection in regards to speaking about his children and was basically saying that he doesn't want his daughters to date any men like him. Now, I will play out a clip, but it's Universal, NBC Universal. So I don't want to take that risk. And I end up without, having I'm like, do I even have, yeah, I do. And then I have to end up having to, edit out the clip because NBC be playing too many damn games when it comes to what we can and cannot show. So while speaking to Extra, he said that he wants his daughters to learn from my mistakes and not date people like their dad. So basically, are you basically saying that their mothers are a mistake? That's what I'm kind of getting from it. And he basically said, when you have 5 daughters and you're like, all right, I at least want to be able to be true and honest, but like I can't live the same life that I've always been living and attempt to right my wrongs in that sense of where, like, hopefully my daughters learn from my mistakes and not date people like their dad. For those unfamiliar with his family tree, y'all know the man got 12 children from 6 different women. I believe it would have been 13 if one of the kids didn't pass away. I think they had cancer or something or another. But yeah, he's got like 12 kids from 6 different women. So you got a dozen kids from half a dozen women, basically. So most know that Ken has twins, Moroccan and Monroe, or Rock and Roll, from ex-wife Mariah Carey, which she's exempt from this because at least he put a ring on it and they walked down the aisle and they was married before they did the traditional thing. He basically just skeeted all up in these other broads and had a bunch of kids. 10 kids with the mother broads. Now, the actor and TV personality also has a son with Brie Tisi and a daughter with Lanisha Cole. Finally, Cannon has 2 kids with Alyssa Scott, a daughter and a son, who died in 2021. Okay, so it was from brain cancer. Now, on Reddit, many users voiced their frustration with Cannon for sharing what they believe to be an inappropriate statement with his young daughters. One person said, so the message is, don't grow up to be like your mothers? A second also chimed in and posted, has he ever learned from his mistakes? Cannon also has sons. Isn't it important to that they don't make those same mistakes? And I do agree with that. It's like, if you go, why do men always be so quick to go after the girls? The girls always have to be the ones that have to be prim and proper. Don't do this. Don't hook up with that one. The good girls like the bad boys. That's been going on since before speech replaced sign language. So why is it that the girls always have to be the ones that shape up and then the dudes could just be dicks or just, laying low and spreading it wide with Thomasina, Dickalina, and Harriet? It's like, no, it shouldn't just be put off on the girls. You need to teach your boys to be respectful of girls as well. So I don't understand why he's sitting up in there and just only trying to put all that energy on his daughters, because I do think that that's a bit unfair. Then another person said, let's be gender neutral here and go, don't date around and have 13 kids with different people or something, a different user quipped. Someone else jumped into the conversation to suggest that Cannon begin modeling the behavior he'd like his children to imitate. One person saying a better place to start would be to behave like the kind of man you like to see your daughters date. He'd rather just pass the buck and put the onus on everyone else to behave better than him. Sometimes I wonder what made him get to the point? Because I don't think anybody just wakes up one morning and decides to just be fruitful and multiply. Like, I'm wondering, like, what really possessed him to get to this point of, you know what? Feel like laying low and spreading it wide today. Like, what possessed you to get to that point? Wasn't that your relationship with Mariah was such this big thing that might have been the woman that that relationship didn't work out. You may have dropped the ball, whatever the case is. I don't know what it is, nor do I care. But your heart and whatever, you don't want to have your heart be broken again because of what your relationship was like with Mariah, that you feel that, maybe just planting a bunch of seeds up in a different bunch of women and having a bunch of kids is much better than me having to be in a long committed relationship with someone where we could start a family and develop and grow. The only thing I feel like that does is I feel like maybe that's going to cause damage on the kids down the road, because as someone who has a multitude of jobs, because you literally are the Black Ryan Seacrest. Like you got more jobs than a Jamaican. So in that situation, how do you spend the time or break or formulate the time with all of your kids? Like, how do you make time for 12 children? Like, how does that work? Like, I'd be curious. Like, I know parents that be struggling and try to make time for one or two of their kids. Or let's go with the standard 3. How do you have that? How do you make that time? So if you doing it with a dozen, that makes it even more interesting. So they say in the negative comments, director Ed Cannon didn't end there. A user questioned whether Cannon was done having kids so he could be an active father who has learned from his mistakes yet. Saying, quote, if by mistakes, does he mean the thing he continues to keep doing to new women? Well, look, the women have to be equal participants. It's not like they just all of a sudden are wording them or doing it without their consent. These women are agreeing to have babies with him because probably they're thinking, oh, I'm with Nick Cannon, so that actually gives me some clout. I get 3 hots and a cot, and I like living that life. Another wrote, of course he says that. It's what deadbeat dads do to earn the grace of his peers after abandoning his children. Well, to be fair, we don't necessarily know if Nick is a deadbeat dad and he's abandoned his children. But like I said, it is genuinely a curious thing of like, how does he split the time or find the time to make the time to spend with his 12 children? Now, back in the day, in a previous interview, I will say this, he did share more about his decision to have multiple kids, saying, you know, Black men, we always be like, what's up, king? He said, I really think I'm the king. When the interviewer asked Cannon whether he could name all 12 of his kids, he said, I usually get in trouble, as he struggled to state them all. And he is a man of, well, I don't know, he's not a man of a certain age. Nick, you in your damn 40s. And looking a little older than that, quiet as it's kept. But I'm wondering, is it because lack of sleep? He got too many jobs, and he got all them kids, and it literally has aged him. Because I do think like having kids does age you, and all that responsibility. But then, in regards of saying that whether or not he was done having kids, he said that he wanted to leave that to God. Don't bring God into this mess. He said God decides when we're done, and I believe I definitely got my hands full. He also made a joke and said, when I'm 85, you never know. I might have. No, stop it, sir. We don't need you being around the same age as Robert De Niro, still having kids. Because by the time that child turned 20, you're going to miss his graduation. You're going to miss all the important times in his life because you so old, you fart and dust and piss and rust, and you're not going to have time to spend with your kid. Because you decided at 85 to have another baby. Now, I should say this because we seem to forget. He did insure his jewels, and I'm not talking about the ones you wear around your neck, for $10 million. He also opened up, and I'm talking about the testicles. So now they said, Hader said it's time for me to start having kids and put his super sperm to rest, but I'm doubling down on these valuable balls and my future kids. Now, after learning how much his jewels were worth by using Dr. Squatch's ball valuation tool, Cannon, who is 44, going on 64, took out an insurance policy on the pair, assuring the public that if anything were to happen to either one, the money will go to his kids. So look, I say the one positive thing about this is that if anything happens to him or whatever the case is, his kids are set. However, money can't buy you time with your kids. Money can't buy you those times when you got to miss someone's baseball game or a dance recital or their graduation or whatever the case is because you're stuck on set or you're out doing some type of event or whatever the case is because you're trying to bring home the bacon and take care of the family. So just keep those things in mind. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story in regards to Nick Cannon and making them comments about his daughters? I do feel like you need to even that out a little bit and not just put the energy on or the pressure on your daughters to have to always step up and do the right thing. Boys need to do right by women and the women they date and all that other stuff too, to show them that you need to be respectful of the person that you're going to be in a relationship with. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.